something that I did not expect to hit my inbox yesterday, hit my inbox, and that came from the Big 12 Conference. Now, I get a lot of emails from the Big 12 Conference. I'm on their mailing list for Player of the Week awards, This Week in the Big 12. They do a lot of cool things to pump up this conference. But something that hit my inbox yesterday absolutely floored me, and that is we have accountability from the Big 12. Now, this was sent out. It said that the Big 12 officials in Saturday's Kansas-Missouri game allowed a punt to occur on a free kick in violation of Rule 2, Section 16, Article 6 of NCAA football rules. That Big 12 officiating crew has been removed from its next scheduled assignment, which was coming up this Friday. Now, they also added this quote, "We believe we have one of the best officiating programs in college football," said Big 12 Chief Football and Competition Officer Scott Draper, who also has been a guest on this very podcast. I caught up with him at Big 12 Media Days. Really enjoyed getting to know him. Then he adds this: "When the conference's high standard for officiating is not met, the Big 12 will take action," unquote. Folks, that is public accountability for people, speaking of officials, who affect the outcome of games or could affect the outcome of games. When they screw up, they need to be held publicly accountable, and the Big 12 is doing just that. The reason I bring this up is because I watch a lot of sports. Many of you know that I work in sports radio in my day job. I cover the NBA, the NFL. I do a Major League Soccer coverage for Real Salt Lake. And beyond BYU and college football, I'm a sports fan at heart. If there is one thing that irks me beyond belief, it is when officials who are paid to get the rules right and to officiate whatever game, contest, or sport they have obviously jurisdiction over, get it wrong. And the fact that we have pretty much no accountability for that. Now, I'm not saying that they need to be publicly flogged or anything like that when they screw up, because mistakes happen. It's human nature to err. But the thing is, Aaron Roderick on Monday when the coordinator's corner was going on, talked about the hold on Kean Need that negated a touchdown for Parker Kingston. It was a textbook block by Kean Need, and he called it a hold. And the rules analyst for ESPN, I can kind of see the guy beat him to the spot. I kind of see why they called it. No, it was dead wrong. Acknowledge it. Guess what? Later on, BYU's own cameras on the goal line showed that LJ Martin was clearly across the line. I think we all could see that on the replay. But for whatever reason, this ACC crew, and it wasn't a crew, speaking of officials from the Atlantic Coast Conference, the ACC, in Provo on Saturday, and it was not a Big 12 crew. And they didn't cost BYU the game, but did they cost BYU points? Yes, they did. So the reason I bring this up is I appreciate the Big 12, Scott Draper, Brett Yormark, all the people involved in this decision for being publicly accountable. It's easy to cover it up and to tell those officials in private, hey, by the way, y'all done screwed up. You're not doing your game next week. It'd be very, very easy for them to do that. And I would wholeheartedly understand why they do it. And a lot of leagues out there, trust me, they hide from the thing. The last 2-minute report in the NBA infuriates people more than anything else, because they say that they screwed up calls, but there's no, like I said, accountability or anything associated with it other than the NBA saying, yeah, that call got screwed up or that call was actually right. The bigger point is I appreciate the Big 12 taking A, action, and B, having accountability for their officials. I think we can all acknowledge that. When mistakes happen, and some are more egregious than others, because like I said, this one they believed was absolutely egregious. They violated the rules of NCAA football. So they're being punished as such. And while you may say, well, it's taking money out of these officials' pockets, well, guess what? They screwed up. They need to be better, and they should learn from this, and in theory, should be better officials going forward, and thereby making sure that the games, the integrity of said contests, are ultimately held to the highest standard possible. I appreciate all of that. The other thing I wanted to talk about before we go on today's show is the AP poll nonsense that's been going on. We have an AP voter that voted, and after USF upset Florida, somehow moved the Florida Gators from number 16 in the poll to number 14 in said poll, while not ranking the USF Bulls, who pulled off that upset in the swamp, if I've got it right. The biggest deal is that if you're going to be an AP voter, I know it's tough to watch every game. I know it's tough to consume all the sports media content that us as sports media professionals are supposed to do, because A, I'm in the space. But if you're going to go on, I don't know if she was on a live stream, on a Zoom or whatever, and essentially say, I don't really want to get into how I go about this, but does it really matter in the end? you know what? It may not matter in the end because the college football playoff rankings are what ultimately matter in this day and age of college football, because those are the rankings that ultimately determine your fate in the postseason. But they are still a talking point. And if you're not going to do the job to the absolute best of your ability, get out. I've been very quiet about this. I revealed it on social media yesterday. I have been nominated twice to be an AP voter, both in football and basketball. Now, it hasn't worked out either time for various reasons, and I hope at some point I would love to be an AP voter. Would it come with all kinds of vitriol being thrown in my face? And if I were to screw up, I'd be facing a public backlash? Absolutely. But I would embrace it. I love the fact that you get a chance, speaking of these AP voters, to have a say in the national conversation we have in college football. But I add this: if you're not going to do the job right, why are you doing the job at all? And that may sound harsh, that may sound heavy-handed coming from myself, but you got to do better. I'm speaking across the board. There's a lot of AP voters out there who do the job admirably. I really do appreciate their efforts, because a lot of them, when they're beat reporters in particular, they're covering one team in particular, or maybe two teams tops. And to be able to keep track of 130 or 136 teams now at the FBS level on any given Saturday, that can be very tough to do, but you've got to put in the time and the effort. You can't simply look at box scores. You can't go to bed early. You can't just half what it and expect it's going to work out. It's a public poll, and your votes, they, like I said, craft national narratives. And I'm speaking from the Big 12 perspective. It cost BYU in many respects an opportunity maybe at a college football playoff berth last year, because they took so long to get into the poll. Now, BYU hurt itself by 2 late season losses. I can also acknowledge that fact. Losing to Kansas, that's unforgivable if you want to play in the college football playoff. You just simply put couldn't lose that game, and you came essentially a handful of plays away from getting out of there. You put together a pretty monumental comeback attempt at Arizona State that also would have given you the chance to play in the college football playoff, or at least play in the Big 12 title game with a chance at playing in the college football playoff. But at the same time, these AP voters, they've got to do better. They should do better. And I hope that the backlash, if you want to call it that, or at least the public reckoning we're having right now, which is kind of crazy. I don't think it's ever been this crazy. I hope it has a net positive impact on the sport. And these AP voters, they're better for it. Am I holding my breath it's going to happen? No, because history suggests, once again, that human error is always going to be a part of this. And there are going to be people who what this and expect to be rewarded and rest on their laurels, but people are getting called out. And it may not be pretty, it may not be fun, but if you're not going to do the job the right way, why in the heck are you doing it? It's a status symbol. Great. It can be a status symbol, but you need to do the job. You've got to put the work in. You got to put the time in. I know certain individual voters in the AP poll personally, and the ones that I know are doing the job the right way. And I appreciate that. But there's a handful more out there, if not more than that, that they're not doing the job, at least from my vantage point as a podcaster and a sports fan, a college football fan junkie at heart, a sicko, if you want to call it that. They're not going to do the job the right way. Take their vote away and find people who will do it. I'll publicly say I want to be an AP voter. I absolutely would embrace doing it. Would it take a lot of time to make sure I get it right? Absolutely. But I would love nothing more than to have that honor. And I hope at some point in my career, I get that opportunity. Who knows if it ultimately comes to fruition? Because as I said, I've been up for the chance to do it both in the AP's college football poll and the basketball poll, and it hasn't worked out yet. Maybe at some point I get that opportunity, and I will just say it right now on the record. I would put in the time, I would put in the work, and I would embrace everything that is about it. And some of these people that aren't doing that, you know what? They probably deserve to have a little, backlash coming their way. All right, I will step off the soapbox now, but as always, thank you, truthfully, for all y'all's support. I cannot thank you guys enough for being with us every single day. We're having a marvelous season already. BYU's 2-0. Life is good. BYU's on a bye week, and looking like they're going to have a chance to go to 3-0. We'll talk a little bit more. I'll get an early scouting report of East Carolina tomorrow. There's a few things I've been noting looking at East Carolina's stats. They throw the ball a lot, and we'll dig into that on tomorrow's podcast. We're also going to probably push the mailbag. If you're a Locked On Cougars Insider Group member, we'll push that up a day as well and get to your questions so that we maybe have 2 days to answer the questions if as many come in as I expect. But as always, Truthfully, thank you for your support of the podcast. Please continue to subscribe, rate, and review. Share it with your family and friends. And as always, come back tomorrow and be an everydayer with us right here on the Locked On Cougars podcast.